Herodotus gives us a valuable information about Kari, which reads: Kari came from the island to the continent. In the old days they were Minos subjects and their name was Lelegi. They kept the islands and did not pay any dues, as far as tradition allows me to find out, but every time Mino asked them to, they gave boats with crew. As Mino kept a wide area under his administration and was successful in war, Kari was the first and most respected of all that time. We owe to Kari 3 inventions, which the Greeks adopted from them, and they are head dresses with feathers on helmets, personifying coats of arms on shields, and bars for pulling the hand from the inside of the shields. Herodotus also tells us that Kari received in temple of god of Karis only Ludeans and Mesians because they consider them their brothers. All this clearly tells us that Kari got his name from the duty they performed. Professional warriors and all their inventions, the headdress, coats of arms, and the belt on the shield, are related to the military duty. There is only one explanation for how the initial letter of their name V became K. The word and the voice vita, which has been special in Serbian language since ancient times, and few other old languages had this letter and voice. The Greeks did not have word vita in the ancient Greek language either. Only the modern Greek language, under the strong influence of Serbian language, did they make the letter B from 2 other letters, and from the previous B they made Serbian V, the same as in Serbian. And in the Middle East, especially in Assyria, Serbian V is written in Chaldean as K, and instead of var they wrote kar. The wave of Serbian expansion from Danube stopped in south with the occupation of parts of Italy and the southeast in Asia Minor, in the second half of the Svajstvo. In the northeast and northwest, the wave of expansion has slowed after the occupation of large areas. Large Serbian settlements are appearing in new areas, which will eventually grow into cities. The first known Serbian cities were Srbica in Bistrica and Troy in Asia Minor. The city of Srbica was located off the main roads and did not have significance that Troy had. In a time after 3000 before Christ, Troy was a larger village, which, thanks to its geographical position, will become the largest trade and educational center of the Serbian world. The Trojan village developed into a large city around 2500 before Christ. The first Troy was of great importance for the world. The Trojan village developed into large city. The first Troy was of great importance for the development of trade, crafts, and especially the new city education. The city was built on an area of about 60 acres. The streets of the city were quite narrow and cut at right angles, which is typical of the old Serbian cities. In the middle of the city was a court of noblemen who was the ruler of Troy. Thanks to its position at the crossroads of land and waterways, Troy played an important role both in trade and crafts, especially in metal processing. It was the main market between Europe and Asia for gold, silver, copper and bronze, as well as for jewelry and precious stones. The vessel from the time of the first Troy was found, on which a ship with 30 rowers and a sharp bow was painted. Troy had a role of a general statum on the roads between Europe and Asia, as well as the White and Black Seas. The influence of Troy was felt very strongly in Asia Minor and Europe, especially on Balkan Peninsula and in the Danube region. At about 2300 before Christ, great riots broke out in Asia Minor, and Troy certainly attracted invaders with its wealth. The first Troy was looted and destroyed. Scientists are debating who the attackers on Troy were. Piran believes that it was Luvits, After crossing the Dardanelles around 2300 BC, when they first appeared in Asia Minor, however, Luwites were not special people, but that is the name of part of Serbs who lived from Europe to Asia at that time and settled in southern parts of Asia Minor. Gustav Glotz compliments to Piran and says that at that time a new invasion from Helm Peninsula started in the direction of the east. The Thracian people built a new Trojan city. There is no difference between the inhabitants of the first and second Troy. They are in fact the same people. The only difference was that the second Troy was larger and better established than the previous one. The houses in New Troy were same as in the previous one, with the royal court in the center of the city. The city was protected by a stone rampart and a moat called Tumba. Outside the city there was a nicely decorated cemetery with beds and corridors. These graves contained weapons, vases, jewelry and idols of the mother goddess, which will later be known as Cybele. Child says at that time in Troy they buried their dead in clay coffins, similar to jars by shape. In the first and second Troy, there were arranged cemeteries in which the dead were buried in clay pots. At that time, Serbs were burning their dead in some parts. Their ashes were left in specially made urns, which as those found in Vincha and Troy. At the same time, family tombs appear, and over time they became more numerous. Tombs and clay coffins in form of jars were also found in Assyria and date back to the time of Nino's kingdom. This is proof more that the transfer of Serbian customs from Europe and Asia Minor to the north and east. In second Troy there were established measures for length, weight and volume. Measurements for length were determined according to the parts of the human body, such as thumb, foot, elbow and buttocks. Gilles Michelet says of Troy, "The great Pelasgian city founded by Dardan. The second Troy had a great influence on Asia Minor and Southeast Europe. Opinions of historians are divided as to the time of the overthrow of the other Troy. The differences range from 150 years, from 2150 to 2000 BC. We can now say with confidence that the second Troy was destroyed during the Ninos campaign around 2025 BC. With this chapter, we have presented the development of Serbian race in time and space, from its oldest traces to the creation of the First Empire. Now we return to the Bible and the history of the nations mentioned in it.